Hello there, this is Cookies. I've got turn 24 of Asphodel. War continues against Agartha, and we found some magic sites. Garden of Bones, I think, is one death. Pyramid of Life, I think, is one astral and one nature. Let's go ahead and watch the battles really quick, though. So we've got a raid against just a little bit of PD. This should be pretty easy. Now, I forget, there might have been a patch, so we might get some replay bugs, but I think overall results should be pretty on point. Let's see, someone pinging PD. In Ildmire, trying to put down these druid rebellions. So we've got a bunch of mannequins and some carrion beasts. Everything drifted north. Now, importantly, sleep vines do not affect inanimates, but vine ogres are not inanimate. They're magic beings, along with vine men. So we can actually fatigue them out. And these vine ogres are a lot of the HP for this group of druids. There we go. So we do get an HP route upon killing the vine ogres. But it was pretty close, actually. So we lose 37. And don't actually kill any of the druids, but we do kill the vine troops. So it sucks, but we've got to do it. It's the price we pay for taking the Throne of Gaia. In Silent Cavern, I believe we get a big fight here. We do. So we've got a line of mannequins, a line of, I'm just going to call them alternate mannequins. It's got the behemoths, who are faster and who will run ahead. It's also got carrion bears, carrion ogres, minotaur mannequins. Kind of some of the more quality mannequins. And then we have a sparse line of carrion boars and carrion horses, the really fast ones. And their sparse line is on attack rear. So they're going to try to get at the Olms. We have 2 packs of Black Centaur to try and turn this, and we've got most of our Carrion Fury production for the game also here. And most of our Sagittarian carcasses are also here. Additionally, I forget if I said in the last one, but I've renamed Panic Apostates after players I've played with recently. So this is Demosthenes, the Panic Apostate. He's got a couple of nature gems. If I remember right, he's going to do haste, and I was hoping he wouldn't spend the extra gem on fatigue and would do, I think there was like a serpent arrows AoE spell that I was hoping he would do. Yeah, so he's doing haste. Now, if you'll notice, we had our first set of mind blasts come out. And something I've noticed is they go after people with mines, But there's also a bug right now where sometimes they'll also target mannequins, and we saw that in the last skirmish. But I'll go ahead and I guess just play this battle. I don't want to overanalyze it for you guys. But the magma kids are just going to be a wrecking ball down the middle, and then hopefully we can turn the flanks. All right. Oh, a couple of shard whites. All right. So we end up winning that. I think I focused mostly on the center there, so I can also focus on the kind of like the Agarthan mages on a second playthrough. But we end up mostly wiping out his army minus 2 Earth Readers. You can see the Magma Kids scored a 3-to-1 kind of like kill death, so they were extremely effective. The Shard Guard struggled, and he got a fair number of mage kills. Now, when it came to our side, we lost 14 Black Centaur, which feels pretty bad, but hopefully it'll be a worthy sacrifice if we can take over Agartha. It'll take a long time to, it takes increasingly long periods of time to replace any Black Centaur losses. But if we can hit a certain kind of like replacement rate with carrion fairies, I think we'll be in a good spot. So, but yeah, losing 14 feels pretty bad, but they put in a lot of work, scoring 79 kills. Carrion behemoths did okay. Almost everything else generally just died, or spent a lot of its time dying. So we ended up losing 30 more things than Agartha did, but a little over half of our kills were from the Black Centaur. So over time, we'll have to kind of diversify our army more. Notably, the Carrion Furies did score 16 kills and lost none. So they're going to be the power base of our armies heading into the mid-game. The Black Centaur will still be very good, but my goal is to hopefully transition over to free spawn by then. Oh, I got Discord going to him. So give me a second. Alright, I've got Discord closed. And I'll mute my phone really quick. Okay. Wait. I think we had... I was going to rewatch this battle. Just be a little more active with the camera. This whole line evaporate. You see some pretty accurate magma bolts. Alright. Cool. So hopefully that kind of showed things off a little bit. Watching that whole front line just disappeared in the magma kids. Pretty brutal. And then in Scorpion Cracks, we actually have another battle. So we've got a large mannequin raid hitting some PD. Mannequins are definitely a unit that like to very much outnumber their opponents. So that's when they shine. And then we get an assassination. A long dead going after our poor dryad. Alright, some banishment kicking in. Fertility cult, earthquake destroys our temple. And the wolves are hungry. The throne of law has been claimed, so we got order +2 and unrest is decreased. So that'll be pretty nice. And then we have a bunch of dogs raid us. So not much we're going to do about that. And this is Fort PD, because it's our national PD. So we can see here we're put under siege, which is pretty annoying. So in terms of what we're breaking siege with and moving in, we've got a fair amount of stuff. I think about 30 quick mannequins, about almost 70 normal mannequins. We've got 14 for an HP sink, because their combat speed's so low they'll never get into combat. And then we've got 4 carrion furies, just kind of mixed in to provide a little bit more sacred punch. And they've got 21 morale, so even in small squads they might be okay. And then we've got a little group of centaur here, just to make sure. And then we've got various books. So we've got a fertility cult here. We've got a fertility cult here. So a fair amount of stuff we need to deal with. Yeah, and then here, trying to patrol out this fertility cult, we've got about 50 mannequins and carrion, and then we have another small batch of sacreds, which is some carrion furies. We're going to go ahead and build a lab in Spires of Ascension. And I think I fixed my scripting, so they're not going to be on retreat now. Also, these mannequins and these mannequins are going to go ahead and reinforce this army. So we've got this sort of army here. Hold an attack rear with the quick carrion. Another sparse line so the faster stuff can go through it, but of normal mannequins that will fight, and then flanking centaur. And then some quality carrion and mannequins in the back, and a few furies to punch up the middle. And I'm hoping that can kill these 80 shard guard, because we'll have 440. Should be a good ratio for that. And then in terms of recruitment, I guess, just so you can see it. All right. And then I've got some new mannequin chaff and some new centaur reinforcements heading down to the main army. But the army is going to go ahead and move on. So if this ends up fighting, it'll have to fight on its own, but I'm not seeing a lot of stuff here. Now, I could try to go on Agartha and siege that, but I kind of want most of his recruitment to be centered in Agartha. I think if I take most of his forts, he's done for. It will let him recruit a whole new army, but I'd rather deal with all the summons being in Agartha than maybe being in other places. So we're gonna try to avoid that. Also, we're just kind of, sorry, got some sniffles. Also, we're just kind of low on chaff, frontline chaff. So any fighting we do could take a heavy toll on our sacreds, and I'm trying to avoid that. So we're going to go down here and take Caverns of Gnek, because it's a forest. So I believe we get our cheap temple. And then we're going to go ahead and raid this other fort, put it under siege. There's no mages in this, which is going to surprise me later when there are some, but that, I don't know, they can just be a little foreboding. And then we're going to go ahead and raid the countryside, so to speak. Try to seize a bunch of territory. And then I'm not going to storm this just yet. I want to make sure I take a clean fight here before we storm. We're not in a particular hurry. I don't think we've seen It of Anger and Pythium fighting. I've heard Machaka's also fighting Pythium. I forget if yet. I think we've seen Abyssia fighting Shiniyama, but I've also heard that Ind has mentioned that they want to attack Shiniyama too. So gonna go ahead and let them do that. I don't want to fight this stack at the moment. Then Calum and Scaleria are fighting. All of our neighbors are busy. We just have to make sure we don't wrap up this war too late. So we do have that going for us. Let's see. I think that's most of it. For research, we're still running up to rigor mortis and foul vapors. And still, although I think what I'm going to need construction 5 to make use of rigor mortis, because I'll need skull staves on death 3s to cast it. But I should be able to make use of foul vapors pretty quickly. The only thing I have to be careful of are my black centaur. Oh yeah, my capital is the one that lost the temple, which is super annoying. But yeah, because it prevented sacred recruitment. But in terms of my bless, I do not have poison resist on my bless. So I cannot, unless I'm willing to point buff them, and I can only do 5, so they will accumulate poison throughout a battle. Generally speaking, I don't want my centaur in an army that's doing foul vapors, unless I plan to win quickly. So that's I forget, there might be a blood spell that gives 10. Purify blood. Yeah. So this would let me do it, but that would be kind of tricky to break into. Blood 4 specifically is pretty high in blood. So there'd be a fair amount of empowering and blood hunting from popped killed Dominion, I guess. Um, so yeah, I think that's where we are right now. Trying to prosecute this war quickly so I can potentially pivot into a second war. Because what happens is if you can finish your war before other people finish their wars, you can potentially intervene. And sometimes that can be extremely profitable. So we're looking at that. We're also doing some Twiceborn on Arpathia, so we got a few more death gems. And I think that's it for this one. We've already spent 20 minutes on this one. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next turn, which is turn 25. Okay, so I got turn 25 up. Oh, the 3 nature from Machaka. As part of a deal where I promised not to overcast their Mother Oak, they've agreed to send me 3 nature per turn. So, not bad for not researching alteration. But if I did run down alteration, I certainly would try to put up Mother Oak. But I'm trying to hit a power spike with Foul Vapors and Rigor Mortis. Potentially, and try to keep that window as large as possible before other people have Serpent's Blessing up. So we find a Shimmering Waterfall. Catch a large Scalaria Kalem battle. So Scalaria's got a Skelly Spam Communion. Kalem has birds. And these are sacred archers with death weapons and withering weapons, which is pretty neat. Unfortunately, it doesn't do much to Long Dead. So it's generally best against really expensive sacreds, and then maybe you put them on fire and keep distance. Maybe with enough troops that they HP route the archers, and you can kind of do hit and run tactics with that. But yeah, you can see the Skelly Spam Communion is humming. We have 4 masters. And 5 slaves. And they're picking up fatigue reasonably quickly. And we do finally get the route. We can check how much fatigue is on these guys right towards the end. 94. They don't have a mage bless, it looks like, or if they do, they didn't bother to bless it, even though they brought a holy 3. But yeah, they were only at about 100 fatigue so far, so pretty efficient communion. Made a lot of skelly spam. Lost a lot of the starting Long Dead though, so probably want to replace that before continuing on, just to give the communion time to kick online. Then in Gehinnom, let's see, we've got our Centaur raids. catching a shard guard that had retreated in Golem. Got another Centaur raid. These mannequins are more for an HP sink. And then there's a few carrion that will tag along. Although these mannequins will actually make it into combat. Not every day you see them get into combat. We lose one Harpy mannequin, not bad. Then in Tunnels of the Lost, another Centaur raid against, I think this is 1 PD. He charged in bravely. In Ebis, we get attacked. So this is the Agarthan counter force. Additionally brought in a bunch of ogres. There's a bunch of shard guard. Has this guy to help bless, which is pretty neat. Got him from an event. A few trogs over here. And then we have a fair amount of Asphodel stuff. So we got Black Centaur on the flanks. Got these guys in the center, like we talked about, and a bunch of mannequins. Unfortunately, these ogres are just kind of winding around, so they'll attack in a column. Alright. So the very slow combat speed of Shard Guard made this defeat significantly worse for them. And so we actually, I mean, we lost a fair amount of stuff. We lost 228 things, but we only lost 2 Black Centaur. We did lose our 4 Carrion Behemoths, which feels bad. We did lose a Carrion Fury, which also feels bad. But generally speaking, most of what we lost are mannequins, and we definitely replaced mannequins. We managed to kill 72 Shard Guard and 55 of the 70 ogres, which is phenomenal. So we're in great shape, both above ground and in the caves now, between these 2 victories. In Caverns of Gnek, we go ahead and move on to his Palisade. right. So we don't lose anything there. But we do catch a fight between Abyssia and Shiniyama. No, just a ping. And then in Mammoth Grove, we've got a Panic Apostate here. He's going to do haste. So we've got Hrum, who was the Vanheim in my round 1 tournament game. We're going to cast haste on these Carrion, and they are going to go much faster. Hopefully. Did it take? That is a question. Maybe I have a misunderstanding of haste, where it doesn't work on undead or something. Yeah, so the panic has it. It's everyone around the panic who does not. Oh well. So, that's good to know. Alright, so they kill a fair amount of our mannequins out in front, but we do catch all the attack rear the dogs tried to do. So, yeah, lose a fair amount of mannequins here. And then in the womb, got another centaur raid. Just into 1 PD. Don't think we need to watch that. Alright. We do take care of one of the Kaya events. We get a bunch of gold. We get a new fertility cult. And then we get an event that takes away our Dominion, which also feels bad. We do breach Abyss. So I'm going to go ahead and ping this. Just see what's inside, and then I'm going to move the army over to Elder Hill. And the reason for this is I want to put Lost Canyon Range under siege. I want everything but Agartha to feel lost to Agartha. So we've got both of these under siege. I'm going to go ahead and storm the caverns here. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this siege on Golm. And then the next thing I want to do is put Lost Canyon Range under siege. And I'm moving up a new force with about 200 things. I am not going to figure out that haste doesn't really seem to work. Oh, it doesn't affect inanimate, so I'm just an idiot. I don't read. But we do have 200 more mannequins here that we can bring to the front. So we're going to do that, and we're going to try and storm Abyss with that, probably. So we're in the process of that. We've got 80 things that will keep the siege live and prevent any breakouts while the army moves on to take Lost Canyon Range. So in terms of recruitment, we're getting a fair number of dryads. And then we've patrolled out one event, and one fertility cult, but we still have one here that we need to deal with. We do have some stuff patrolling now, but it'll get dealt with when it gets dealt with, I guess. I don't know. Here's that Pyramid of Life. I was wrong. It's 1 death and 1 astral. I think I said 1 nature and 1 astral. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. We can see Shiniyama's holding on. Pythium's having difficulties. And then Scalaria's gonna probably start gaining ground pretty soon here. So I think that's it for this one. And I will go ahead and see you in the next one. Have a good one, everyone. Later.